How's everybody today? Good. Well, I'm sure that our team, players, all looking forward to the challenges of the season. But I think the biggest challenge for, our team is to create an identity for this team, to prove that you can be a dangerous team, to prove that you have the energy, focus, and enthusiasm, not just to win a game, but to beat the other team. And there is a difference in that. And I think that difference, primarily is the way you compete, the way you play, the relentless competitive attitude that you have for 60 minutes in a game to play to a standard, your standard, not let the scoreboard or anything else determine what your performance level is. And, that's something that I think this team has to prove, that it can do. Middle Tennessee is, they won 8 games last year. They beat a top 25 team in Miami. They won a bowl game against San Diego State. Rick Stockstill's been there for a long time. He's done a really good job. They got a great offensive scheme in terms of how they do things and problems that they create. So it's going to be challenging from our players from that standpoint. They're a very aggressive defensive team, a lot of stunts, a lot of blitzes, a lot of negative plays. So it's a very challenging preparation for our offensive team. And they're sound and solid and do a great job on special teams. So this is a challenging team for us to play. But again, we're concerned about how do we establish an identity for our team in terms of how we compete and how we play, regardless of, who we might play. I know that, your number one focus is not on the game. It's on the depth chart. And look, there's a lot of competition on the team. And when we put a depth chart out, you all think that's like final, like this is like etched in stone that it's going to be this way forevermore, just because we come out of fall camp and that's where it is. But creates a lot of distractions on our team, creates a lot of, guys thinking that, well, this guy won the job now and I'm not going to play or whatever. And quite frankly, we don't need that. And I want all of our players to continue to compete, continue to compete for playing time, to try to play at the highest level. And I don't want anybody on our team to think they're a backup player or whatever. And, the depth chart kind of does that. I think most of the players on our team know who should start in the game and who shouldn't start. But that's something that they do day to day in terms of the way they compete and the way they play. And nobody's entitled to playing just because we put it on a piece of paper and say this is the way it is today. So I apologize for that, but it is what it is.
Charlie, right?
What kind of progress did you see from the guys that are competing at the safety position in the preseason?
Yeah, well, Caleb's done a really good job. I know he's a young player, but he's done a really good job. He's smart, he's bright, he understands football very well. Um, Jalen Key has done a really good job. He's got a lot of experience, even though he hadn't played here. He's played other places in a very similar system. So, those two guys have done a good job. Malachi can play, safety or star. So, um, Smitty's been out with his foot for a while, and we certainly think that he would be in the mix if he were healthy. Christian Story is, a dependable guy at the position, so that's kind of where it's at right now.
Back on the left with Matt.
MTSU has one of the better secondaries in their league. What are the challenges of going against that group?
Well, I think they play really well. They get a lot of turnovers, but they create a lot of pressure. They're a pressure defense, and they put a lot of pressure on their secondary. And their corners have played very well, whether they play off or man-to-man and press. Their safeties are very aggressive and make a lot of plays. So I think there's a little bit of big little that goes with this team. If you look at the statistics of the way they played, they make a lot of plays on defense. And when it comes to negative plays that they create, turnovers that they get, but they've also given up plays. And I think you got to have lots of patience. You got to have a good plan in terms of trying to minimize how much they can create negative plays, but also maximize taking advantage of making some explosive plays.
Nick.
Several offensive linemen have discussed wanting to play a more dominant physical brand of football this season. How have you seen that transpire? How would you evaluate how that's been through fall camp and preseason?
Well, I would say that's up to them. They want to be a dominant physical. That's part of the identity that we're trying to create and want to create at every position, not just in the offensive line. So, and to be able to have balance on offense, you got to be able to control the line of scrimmage and get movement up front and play physical. But it's the same thing in the passing game. You got to be able to protect the quarterback and so you can make plays in the passing game. So we always want to be physical. We always want to be dominant. We want to be that on the defensive line. We want to be that on the offensive line. And style of play can determine that to some degree. But having balance and being able to do both those things, I think, is the most critical factor.
You referenced the Middle Tennessee State game against Miami last year. That was a game where they showed an ability to hit on explosive plays in the pass game. What type of challenges does that present to your secondary, and how do you go about counteracting that?
Yeah, well, I think the multiples of formations that they give you, whether it's empty, four open, wide outs, all kinds of things, are going to put guys, at some point in time, you got to play guys man to man. So, and you guys got to win. You can't give up explosive plays. So I also think you got to mix it up. And, sometimes when people spread you out, you got to play maximum coverage. Sometimes you got to play maximum pressure. But whatever, you have to be able to execute so that you're not giving up explosive plays. I mean, that's turnovers, explosive play ratio. Those are the two most critical factors in winning and losing games. So I think you got to be patient. These guys are going to go no huddle. They'll go fast at times. Players got to be able to get lined up and execute and not let that affect their rhythm and how they play. And they did make a lot of explosive plays against Miami last year. And that's something that, we're always trying to take away. And that's going to be a challenge for our guys in the back end. But it's also, when you give up explosive plays, it's usually all 11 guys. Sometimes you lose pass rush lanes, quarterback scrambles, throws a big one, whatever. So everybody's got to do their job to eliminate the other team's ability to make explosive plays.
Front left with Chase.
How much of being a good blitzer is instincts, anticipation, just having a good feel for it? And what did you think about the way the defense executed blitz calls and practice this month?
We've done a pretty good job with the pressures, so far, but, containing the quarterback, not necessarily thinking just because you pressure, you want to sack the quarterback. Because the worst thing that can happen when you pressure is somebody gets pushed by. If you get pushed by the quarterback, you're playing with 10 guys. So you ask me how much of it is instinctive and how much of it is, I don't care what position you play. At some point in time, instincts take over, just like defensive back. Okay, the ball's coming. I can intercept it. I can swat and hook it. I can break down and tackle the guy. It all depends on how fast the ball is getting there and what your position is. So how much is that coaching and how much is that instinct? So if I'm pass rushing and I try to speed rush a guy and he soft sets me and pushes me by, how much of that is ability and how much of that is lack of instincts? Guy soft set, you should bull rush him. You should power rush him. Don't get pushed by the quarterback. Not the time to try to make a sack. When do you use your hands? When do you use what pass rush move? It's like a wrestler. When do you use what move? It's the same thing when you're playing defensive line or offensive line. You're using your hands, you got body position. You get a guy off balance one way, how you going to push him back the other way? So we try to teach guys all those things, but when it comes to fastball application, it's no different than the baseball analogy that I use. I use it with the players all the time. I say, you just swung a pitch over your head. Everybody understands is like, what are you doing? You watch baseball, don't you? I see these guys in major leagues do it. The ball's 4 feet outside, slider, swinging at it. Look bad doing it.
Bigger when high.
Yeah, looks worse.
Right in the back.
Coach, this isn't your first opening day with Alabama, but every year seems to be exciting for the fans. There's been a few years we've been in Atlanta to start or Orlando. What does it mean to be here in Tuscaloosa? And what's your message to the fans about coming out to this game against Middle Tennessee?
Well, we've always had great fan support, regardless of where we played. There's always been great enthusiasm. I think our fans are a big part of the team. The atmosphere that they create, during games is, something that's part of the tradition around here that makes guys want to play here, whether they're recruits coming to see the games or whether they're players on the field. So it's always important, and this game is important to us. It's important for this team to create an identity, and the fans can have a significant impact on that with their energy and enthusiasm.
Nick Alvarez.
What does JC Latham mean, not only to the offensive line, but just to stability, bringing his leadership and his expertise to the team?
Yeah, JC's played really well. He's shown a lot of maturity. He's become a leader of sorts of the offensive line. He's a physical guy, plays with a lot of toughness. We've tried to eliminate, penalties and being able to stay focused on doing the right things with the offensive line and with JC. And he's done a pretty good job of taking those challenges and trying to implement them in a way that's going to be a positive thing for our team.
So what sort of progress have you seen from Jalen Milroe since he played last year?
I think Jalen has made a significant amount of improvement. I think he's more comfortable in the pocket. I think that he has more confidence in the way he executes and the way he plays. He's been more consistent in the way he's played, and I think that's going to be the key, the drill for him to be able to maintain that consistency in every practice, so that he is developing the kind of habits that are going to carry over in the game and help him be successful.
Two to finish, Steven, and then Tony.
And Cam, what type of growth did you see from Jamarian Latham up front?
He's done a really good job. He's been hurt a little bit on and off since he's been here. He's gotten a little bigger. He's gotten a little stronger, and he's a very good athlete. I think he's more confident in terms of learning the defense, making less mental errors. I think it's important to him. I think he's shown a lot of maturity in the way he's developed and progressed. So I think he's a guy that can make a significant contribution for us up front.
Given the situation at quarterback, do you enter this game expecting to use multiple quarterbacks, or is there a game plan just drawn up for whoever's the starter?
I don't have any expectations for that right now. I mean, we're going one day at a time, and we're repping the players, and even regardless of what happens in this game, it's the same thing that I told you guys before. Just because whoever starts in the first game, that doesn't mean that you don't have to continue to compete and play throughout the season, because the competition doesn't end with the first game at any position, including quarterback. So, my expectation is what can we do to get them better today, so that we can play better the next day and the next day. And then when the game comes, we'll be playing as well as we can. We need to be playing to create value for themselves as players, as well as our team to be able to have success. All right, thank you.
Raise your hand.
Hey, Seth. Several of the offensive linemen have talked, through fall camp in the spring about wanting to play a dominant, physical brand of football this fall. How would you assess how you guys have done that, and what's kind of the mindset as far as you guys making sure that that actually translates to the season?
I think every single offensive line in college football wants to be able to dominate, and we've been asked about that a lot, and I think that's the mindset we have, and we're going to go out there and we're going to try to play our brand of football and do what Coach Wilford talks to us about, and just play hard.
So the big question is obviously about the quarterbacks, and coach says that you're going to see what happens during the game. Going into Texas, a lot of question marks. But how has it been back there with all three guys, and what confidence level do you have, regardless of who's out there to play?
I think the whole room has had a lot of growth. Each guy's gotten a lot better, and it's been easier playing center, going for each guy, taking reps, throughout camp. So I'm glad to see the way those guys are progressing, and I think any guy that goes out this week is going to have a good time and play really well.
You've been around a couple of years here. What's it like the Monday of game week? The first depth chart is released. Is it distracting? Do players notice that when it comes out?
I don't know if we put a depth chart out this year, but I don't think it distracts us at all, because what we put out there may not exactly be what we're going to have on the first day. I think game by game, Coach Saban's going to put the guys out there that are going to put us in the best situation to win. So whatever that says, that's what's going to be.
Earlier in camp, Coach Saban said that you're bigger and stronger this year. Kind of two questions. Just where are you at from a weight standpoint, and do you feel that? Was that an emphasis for you this offseason?
Yeah, I've been sitting at around 305. I've always wanted to, coming in, I came in at like 265. So it's always been the thing from Coach Saban, keep getting stronger, keep putting on weight, keep putting on good weight. So that was where I think I took the biggest jump this year, was just getting in the weight room with Coach Rick and Coach Ballou, and getting to where I need to be. But yeah, I'm playing around 305 right now.
Seth, he plays on defense, but how have you seen Deontay Lawson become more vocal where that group is concerned?
Yeah, it's been really nice seeing Deontay take the steps as a leader, and he knows the playbook in and out, and it's been really interesting to see how he can lead those guys and put everybody in the right positions, make all the calls at the mic spot.
How much maturity have you seen from Caden, and how has he kind of gelled with you guys since coming in, I guess, in January?
It's a big role to come in as a freshman and compete for a starting left tackle spot at the University of Alabama. It's a hard thing even for older guys to do. So I've been proud of the way he's taken things in stride, and he's been coachable. We've helped him out. He hasn't had like a I know everything type mentality, and I think he's taking coaching points from everybody, and I'm really proud to see the way he's progressed this camp.
Tyler Booker was on the radio today and talked about how you guys have some type of measurement for your tongues and how that correlates to hydration for during the season. How's your tongue looking, and what does that look like, and how does that help?
Tongue's looking great. They have these little devices that walk around, and you just dab it on your tongue, and it pops up a number to see if you've been hydrating or not. It's like a scale. It says hydrated, mildly dehydrated, or dehydrated. But yeah, I think tongue's pretty good.
On that note, Tyler was saying that apparently Eric Wolford was saying Saban hasn't taken a bathroom break in 41 years. Have you heard that story, and what's your take on that?
Yeah, I don't think Coach Saban has to hydrate as much as we do. We're chugging water day in and day out. And it's hard if you're doing it right. You got to go to the restroom every 30 minutes. So when we're sitting in an hour and a half meeting, and Coach Saban's put a rule that can't go to the restroom, otherwise the position coaches are probably going to get in trouble. Nobody said that. That's what I'm assuming. It's a different ball game, running around coaching than it is playing. So.
How much excitement is there just among the players about it actually finally being game week, and all the talk and all the, who is going to start is finally here?
It's been a long camp, and it felt really long this year. It was a really hard camp, and I think it is going to be nice to play somebody else. It's not fun going up against Jaheim and Tim Smith and Tim Keenan every day in practice, because they start to get to know you really well, and they start knowing your moves. If I know he's about to bull rush me, I might do a certain thing, and he knows that I'm thinking what he's thinking. So It'll be nice to go and play against somebody that doesn't necessarily know exactly what I'm thinking every single play.
Thanks, son.
Thank y'all.
Just talking to Seth, he was saying he's kind of tired of going against the Alabama defense every day in practice. Who are some of the guys on the offense that you're kind of sick of going against, and how ready are you for game week?
The whole offensive line, that's a nasty group. But overall, I'm just ready to go against a different team, and it'll be fun to see a different color jersey.
I asked Coach just game week. There's a lot of games that start maybe in Atlanta or Orlando. Just to have it here in Tuscaloosa, how excited are you to be in front of the fans for week number 1?
It'll be fun to be in your home crowd and get that Brian Denny feeling back.
How has Tresman Marshall continue to grow through fall camp, and what type of addition has he been to the inside linebacker room?
Yeah, Trez is a great player. He's coming to work every day just to get better, and I feel like all the inside backers we're just working right now and ready for the game 1.
Coach Saban talked about Caleb and Jalen Key at the safety position as guys that have really stood out. Just what have you seen from that whole group behind you and how they've progressed?
Yeah, they're working on the little things. They're all doing a great job. I'm ready. I'm just excited to see how they're going to do against our opponent.
When you watch Tim Keenan and Jamarian Latham in front of you, what type of growth have those two made?
Oh yeah, start with Tim. He's definitely made a lot of growth, and he's cut some weight, so he's able to move and in ways I haven't seen yet. And Jamarian Latham, he's always been working hard, and I'm just ready to have those guys, take on the double teams for me.
The offensive linemen have talked all fall camp about wanting to just play a more physical brand of football, get back to kind of dominating. You obviously get to go against them all the time in practice. What have you seen in that regard in terms of them improving?
Some boys are coming. They work together. They're just a unique bunch, and I feel like they'll do what they need to do.
Yeah, Deontay, how much extra work, how hard is it to kind of be a Mike linebacker in Saban's defense, having to really call the defense and be the quarterback of the defense, behind the scenes, how much extra work is that?
Yeah, it's definitely extra work, but I mean, I feel like everyone on the defense should take that extra work with the extra film study and, just bringing guys together so we can become a unit and a better team.
All right.
Thank you.
Fam, what's going on? Kyle Anderson, Bama Football on YouTube. That was Coach Saban's press conference along with Seth McLaughlin and Deontay Lawson. You can catch those interviews back on Bama Football on YouTube. Hope you guys have enjoyed the live stream today. Really appreciate you guys being here. On Tuesday, we will have another opportunity to hear from 3 more players, Jace, Chris Braswell, and Kool-Aid JaQuincy McKinstry as we load up on our Week 1 coverage from beautiful Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Tonight, Monday Night Quarterback, you got Coach Smook and Big Sean coming to you talking Alabama football at 7 p.m. So definitely hit the notification, and we appreciate you guys being here, honestly. So hit the thumbs up and make sure you guys are notified. So hit the subscribe button. That's the bell on the YouTube page, and really appreciate all the support that you guys continue to give us. Great questions today. I think the biggest takeaway for me when listening to Coach Saban is the fact that he did not give out a depth chart. And that was the first time since he's been here, since coming and taking over, in 2006, 2007, that he has not released a depth chart. And I want to kind of get your take on that inside the comment box. I mean, what do you take from that? Do you feel that that does create kind of, a stigma inside the locker room? Like, I'm not a starter, he's a starter, and kind of divides up the locker room. What has changed from last year to this year? In my opinion, I kind of feel that the depth chart kind of has been looked at now as, if I'm not a starter, I can go somewhere else and become a starter. And I do agree with Coach Saban on this, though. Just because you are a starter in this game, I mean, if you played sports, just because you got the start in a particular game doesn't mean you're going to start in week 2 or, for the, playoffs or whatever. But it's interesting that they would just not list a depth chart. And I do feel that they do have to list a depth chart of some sort over the next couple of days going into that first game against Middle Tennessee. But I guess we'll have to see if that does in fact happen. Had an opportunity this morning to hear from Rick Stockstill, who's the head football coach of Middle Tennessee, and he spoke about playing Alabama and the challenges that Alabama presents. Clearly, he's been here before, back in 2015 when Alabama was able to win 37-10, I believe. One of the things that was interesting about Middle Tennessee when you look to their kind of defensive component is the amount of takeaways that Middle Tennessee does create. Over the last several years, they've been a team that can create, turnovers all over the field. Last year, they had 20 total interceptions, which is pretty notable. So you look to the Alabama quarterback room, being there, not that experienced. I think it is a little bit of an interesting storyline just to see how Alabama is going to dictate their play styling under new offensive coordinator Tommy Rees. Another thing that I'm interested to see is Alabama going to just go ground heavy? Wouldn't that be something, right? If we see Alabama just come out and we're all talking about the quarterbacks, but it's really about the running backs and the running back shine. I'd keep my eye, honestly, this weekend on Jam Miller. I mean, continue to hear great things about him. And I know we hype up Jace and Roydell, and rightfully so, and even the true freshman, Justice Haynes. But Jam Miller, I think if he has some opportunities, let's keep our eye on him. What do you guys think about Jam Miller? Give me a thumbs up if you guys feel that he could be a top-level back for Alabama. Another thing that I was talking about with Chip Walters, and you probably caught that interview that I posted yesterday and then reran this morning, was the fact that Middle Tennessee, likes to spread the field, right? So it's an air raid attack, which I think is a great opportunity to get these defensive backs some reps and some opportunities. And that's what Middle Tennessee was able to do against Miami. If you look to those stats last year, obviously Middle Tennessee has a different quarterback this year, but they spread the field all over. And there was 2 receivers that nearly had 200 yards. Alabama clearly had a tough time with, Tennessee and LSU. What did those programs have in common? They were able to, spread out Alabama across the field. So I think it is a good preparation for that week 2 game against Texas, right? You're getting a warm-up game in a sense to where a quarterback is going to throw the football all across the field. I think it's a great opportunity for a freshman like Caleb Downs. And as you heard, Coach Saban just talked about kind of the safeties and about Caleb Downs and kind of the progress that he's made. Another thing that I feel is something to watch about this game, and something that's really great for both of these teams coming in, is usually you kind of have these nicks and, maybe small injuries coming into the first game from fall camp. These teams are really healthy, and I think we really haven't talked about that much. There's been a couple guys with, contusions or bruises or whatever, but, for the most part, Alabama is really healthy, which I think is very critical. So you go into this game really healthy, and I like that. I like that aspect. I thought that was interesting hearing the guys just recently talk, Seth McLaughlin and Deontay Lawson, about Alabama has technology to check the tongue to see how hydrated they are, right? Really interesting stuff. We'll continue to have coverage right here on Bama Football on YouTube. Hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe. Coming to you from beautiful Tuscaloosa, Alabama. My name is Kyle Henderson. Hit the thumbs up, like, and we will catch you next video tonight. Remember, 7 p.m., Coach Smook, Sean, talk Alabama football on Monday Night Quarterback. Coming to you from beautiful Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Kyle Henderson at Bama Football on YouTube.